Welcome back. I've got a fantastic interview for you today. And this interview in particular has been particularly difficult for me to schedule with because he's so darn busy selling real estate. This is Kevin. I've been trying for like 6 months. This is Kevin Yoder from Michigan. He's a fantastic agent, and you're about to learn not just a lot of techniques on listing real estate, but also building a business that produces very consistent net income. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about all kinds of different things. And I guarantee you, at the end of this interview, you are going to feel educated, motivated, and then you're going to get into action because Kevin and I have made a commitment that we're going to give you practical, tactical information that you can immediately go out and use to help people and make money. So Kevin, without any further delay, welcome to the World's Greatest Agent Interview Series.
Thanks, Tim. Man, excited to be here. I'm glad we finally track each other down and make it happen.
Yeah,
I'm
we
excited.
did. Well, it turns out we had good reason for not being able to easily schedule because you and I were just gallivanting all over the world doing some family travel.
Exactly. So, I thought I saw you in a train station, but I'm like, that can't be Harris. But
did you use the bullet trains in Italy, by the way?
we did the train. Our trip was planes, trains, and automobiles. We did all three car rentals, and we flew from here to there. It was all of it.
We'll talk, so we don't make this a travel interview. We'll talk about that a little bit when we're talking about environment, but it is worth noting those trains in Italy, 150 miles per hour. I mean, come on, that is badass.
It's insane. It was awesome. It was a great experience. First time too. So you're like, what? Yeah.
So let them know a little bit about yourself. We're in Michigan, and please do include your contact information, your cell phone, if that's okay with you, because you'll get referrals from this and things of that nature. So let them know where you sell real estate and all this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just start with my cell phone because I always forget that part. I do the other stuff. So my phone, if you guys want to reach out to me, here it is. 616. This is my mobile number. So if you want to reach out, this is how you get me. 616-366-2591. 616-366-2591. And email is kevin@yoderrealestate.com. Kevin@yoderrealestate.com.
I'll make sure your phone number is on the screen so I'll repeat it for you so you don't have to worry about repeating again. All right, great.
All right, sounds good.
So I'm going to ask you some questions from a perspective of a new agent and then a few questions from the perspective of an experienced agent, okay? Because I know you're going to be giving great advice on, for everybody. So, well, first of all, again, where in Michigan do you sell real estate? What towns do you service? Let's make sure we go over that first.
Sure. Yeah, so home base, Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's the second largest city in the state of Michigan. And Michiganders, I don't know if you knew this or not, but we identify where we're from by pointing at our hand. Unlike any other state, you can't do it in North Carolina because you can't make your hand that shape, or maybe Puerto Rico you can, but we're here. So we're about 30 minutes from the lakeshore. Lake Michigan acts and feels like an ocean. So Tim, if I were to bound and gag you and throw you in the back of a pickup truck blindfolded and drop you in front of Lake Michigan and said you're at the Pacific, you might just think that that's accurate. So that's how we're surrounded by all the Great Lakes. And you're familiar. You're a Midwest guy, so you kind of know what that's like. But it's for people to see it for the first time. I hired an assistant. She's actually from Switzerland. She's been here for years, but she'd never seen Lake Michigan before. And for her, it's just the most magical, beautiful place that she's ever seen. So we're 30 minutes from the lakeshore, but my office, my hub is Grand Rapids, but we really do service within a 100-mile radius. That's changed over the years. As the business has changed, so has our radius, because as you know, listings to last, we're willing to travel and go get the listing, bring the sign, slam in the yard. I don't really go past 100 miles. That's probably the extreme. But what else? 22 years in the business. I've had small teams, I've been solo, small team, big team, medium team, and now in our current state, we're running lean and mean and probably having the best time of my 22 years.
Oh, you just covered a whole bunch of topics for me, and I think it's fantastic. Well, so 22 years in the business. I know you said list to last, because that's definitely critical, right? And agents, if you haven't heard that before, welcome to real estate, especially in this day and age of all this confusion with regards to buyer agent commission lawsuits. Every single agent, no matter whether they are in the business forever or whether they just got their license, should have priority number one, learning how to be a powerful listing agent. So along those lines, I want you to help me work through the question that we get all the time from newer agents asking, what should they be doing to start taking listings right away? What activities should they be doing to learn how to take listings? If you had to create a 3-point action plan, what would it be?
Sure. So Tim, and I'm not saying this just because you happen to have the same philosophy. In fact, you and I often have different opinions on things. And this one happens to align closely with things that I've heard you share. You know darn well that what's what it is. And the reason I look at it this way, if someone were to hover above the real estate industry, let's just say it's like aliens. They come to planet Earth and they're like, okay, tell me about this real estate thing you guys are doing. And they say, well, here, what's the game that you're playing? And then someone would explain to them that the game is about concentric circles and getting people in your database, the putting them in your box, if you will. That's your CRM system. But how do you get them in there? Well, you can do this, or you can do that, you can do this or do that. And they're like, or you could like call on, you could basically like do all these different things to try to get them to get in your container. And then the aliens would say, well, what else? Well, there's these other things. They're called FSBOs and they're called expireds. Well, tell me about that. Well, those are people you call that actually already are selling. And then the aliens would ask, well, do people do that? And they say, well, not a lot. And so like what percentage the aliens would ask? And it'd say probably 5% or less. And the aliens would scratch their head and they would just really wonder why the hell that would be. They wouldn't get it. It wouldn't make sense because it's the only place like that literally we wake up every morning and we ask a question. At least I do. I think many do. Where are my sellers at? Where my seller at? Right? Like, where is my next client? The answer is already solved. We're literally solving for X here. It's done. Game over. So then the question is why are we not just going after the person that's already said, I'm selling? We're all of the rest of it's a big question mark. Circle prospecting, direct mail to neighborhoods, farming. It's all still a big question mark. Putting ads on Facebook, Google Ads, all that stuff. It's a question mark. We don't know where our seller is. Even our past clients. I don't know if you're selling, right? I have no idea. It's still a question mark. I'm going to solve for X and just get rid of the question mark and go directly that straight line between where I am and that house, and then increase the amount of time and effort on increasing my skill set around that, because I could just sit here in the office and hope and pray, or I could just get really damn good at that. And I've just chosen to do that. And that's been the magic sauce for the staple for me and my business. And if I were to tell anybody starting off in real estate, I would first ask, why are you doing this? And are you sure you want to do it? I would, because I have to figure out, do they have what it takes to do those things? And many think they're getting into real estate for a different reason, you know?
You just said two really good things, and I don't want to bounce from one thing to the other because your first thing you said was so damn important that they understand it. And it really, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying, so if someone wants to make money helping people sell real estate, that's it. That's your job. You got a license. Yeah. Okay. So you can do something that maybe someday will hopefully, if all the stars align, generate a lead, and that lead might someday choose to do business with you after they've been in your CRM and you've dripped on them for 40 years, after you've done your 1,000 videos and your branding and you're working on your logo and you bought your moving truck and you mailed 1 billion postcards and you go blah, 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 all these things, right? Or you can just basically call the people who have their hands in their air right now. FSBOs, expireds, there's arguably, 15 to 20 different sources of ready to go seller leads. The FSBOs and expireds are going to be the most, resilient. They're always going to be there. You could just call those folks and take a professional approach, explain to them the benefits of working with you. And those people will then become listings, and they self-identify. You can buy the lists, text RED to 47372 listeners, text the word RED to 47372. Do you use RedX?
I don't, but no, yeah. I don't. But yeah, well, I mean, and whatever, man. It's just use whatever one you want to use, right? Use Tim's. Right. Yeah, that's great. Just get the data.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So, but RedX is because everyone's going to ask, where do I get the expired sources, the expired leads? I just told you, text the word RED to 47372. But I mean, there it is. Like you and I are going to walk in front of a group of 1,000 agents, and you and I are going to hold a live auction, and we walk in with a list. We have this big, we have this list, right? This is a list of all the FSBOs and expireds that are in a particular marketplace. We're going to go up in front of the room and we're going to say, I'm going to auction off this list. I've got the addresses, the names, the phone numbers, all the property information. I have all kinds of, and these are all sellers, 9 times out of 10 that have to sell their homes. These are motivated sellers. This is a list right here of 1,000 people, have to sell sellers. I'm going to open up the auction right now at $10,000. I bet you there's people in that room that would bid unlimited amounts of money for those seller leads. And then you'd say, well, I got great news for you. And Julie and I've done this in live events before. I've got great news for you. I got this information prior to us starting from your MLS. These are all the expireds that happened in the last 6 months or the past 12 months, you know, just accordingly. And this other list I got from RedX or wherever, and this is all the for sale by owners in your marketplace. These leads, here they are. And then you know, they're all like, you and I have an advantage and a disadvantage. We've been in the business long enough to know better, okay? Because we've been in the business before agents were so hammered constantly buying leads and branding. And so many of these agents, so you learned how to do this from somebody else and then got better at it, never stepped away from it. But agents getting the business nowadays, they're going to online coaches and they're going to office managers and they're going to all these people who never learned how to self-generate. They've never learned how to be proactive lead generators. They've only come up in the generation knowing how to buy leads. And so when you expose people to this fact that you can actually, you know, go out and learn how the skill set to list these listings, what's been your experience when you share this information with agents who basically have been beating their heads against the wall forever trying to brand?
So I think it goes back to the thing I said before we segued into your explanation, is that most agents didn't get into real estate to call strangers and prospect. And that doesn't, so my point is that when they think about that, it kind of makes them sick to their stomach. They get nervous. They kind of backpedal because that's not what they got into. And yet it's really, you know, they say change the way you look at things and things you look at change. If you just change that slightly, because I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up with a lot, man. Like we talked about that a little bit off camera. Like I've sat in a muck farm where in the morning at 5:30 a.m. we sat there and we picked onions all freaking day, and we moved down the row. I'm sitting there picking onions and wrapping them in rubber bands and picking off maggots. Right, $5 an hour, 1990. Okay, so we've all done things like that, like manual labor, or we've had jobs that brought us into real estate, but we're all doing something that we might not have wanted to do. And yet it produces the paycheck. So we have this thing here in real estate where we could increase our skill set, and it ultimately gets us what we want just faster. So what do we want? We all want the same damn thing. We want a closing, and we want as many of them as possible. And so we just have to kind of get over that. I didn't get into real estate to prospect. Well, did you get into real estate to be poor? You get into real estate to come home at the end of the day and feel like a loser and have your family like wonder what you did all day long? That's absolutely not why you got into real estate. You got into real estate so you can create an income that allows you to do the things you want to do and bring your family the way you want, where you want to bring them, and follow up. You know, you get all the things there. So yeah, maybe not the thing you signed up for. At the same time, who cares? It is a direct path, and it's one that works, and you know it works. Many do know it works that actually work it. So I would just say that that's what I would encourage someone to do, is to look closely at their goals and have the reason why that they're in the business, have that be a guiding force, have that be bigger than the fear associated with picking up the phone. You have to shrink it and then step into it.
There's so much that's packed into what you just said. I just really hope we're motivating, helping somebody to realize that they can be successful. You know, we've had coaching clients, you know, a lot of folks that didn't necessarily have the most dynamic, bouncy personalities, weren't, you know, super camera ready for Instagram or whatever, but they picked up the phone. They learned how to actually be proactive lead generators. And they also, you said this too, I'm going to encapsulate it. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business, in your business, in other words, if you want your life to consistently be getting better in meaningful ways, you have to accept the fact that you have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And that flies in the face of pretty much every damn thing that's almost become dogma. You know, follow your passion, the money will follow. All these things that most of us grew up with, they turned out they're not complete lies, but they're pretty much lies. And so if you accept the fact that what Yoder just said, that you have to do what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level, and you got to do it every damn day. You have to be consistent at it. You can't just try it and then stop and try it and stop. And people get on the other side of that, when they've done it, when they've had just tiny little bits of success, it really does change your life. And it's not, so Yoder and I are talking about, Kevin and I are talking about, you know, passive lead generation versus proactive lead generation. And so just so you guys understand, neither one of us are like, we're obviously advocates for learning how to be a proactive lead generator because you are in control of your result. But that's not to say that the passive lead generation stuff doesn't have a place in real estate. It obviously does. But if you could choose to only do one thing, remember I said this was for a newer agent, and you want to make money now and you want to help people and you want to really build a great brand, which is another way of saying your reputation, absolutely positively learn the skills to be a proactive lead generator. I mean, there's no comparison to that. So why do you think, you said fear a few times, but why do you think people, and they've always felt this way. I mean, Julie and I have been in the business for 30 years. Why do you think people have always felt fear about calling strangers?
Because of the deeply rooted, it's baked in our DNA. Rejection is a real thing. People are deathly afraid of being rejected, period. Because it's an affront to the self-image. And whenever we are faced with a question that we're asking somebody and they say no, we take it as a rejection, which is actually not a rejection to us. Tim, are you frozen? I think you might be frozen. There you go. Okay, good.
I'm not. We may have been frozen, but that's what happens. The fact that we're communicating well between Michigan and Puerto Rico, all good.
It's all good. So that's what it is, though. So and there's been books on this, and Jeb Blunt, who wrote Fanatical Prospecting, if you haven't read it, pick it up. He had a backup book called, I think, Rejection or Objections or something, but that was kind of the one that really brings the science to bear on this one, that it's baked within our DNA. Because back in the day, if we were ousted from our tribe, it was certain death. So that we can't dispute that. He says even that sales managers that say get over it is really a bad tactic, because it's not enough to say just get over it. And so I may come across as being like, get over it. I know for a fact it's not as easy as just saying that. What I'm suggesting is that rejection's a real thing. And I can tell you this, that even after 22 years and hopping on the dialer every single day, I still feel a little something. You know what I mean? Like, I still feel like I don't want to do this. And the fact of the matter is I do it anyway. You can't see it, but right up here above my screen is pictures of my family. I have pictures of some things I'm going to buy that are really super expensive and pretty damn cool. But that I look at those and then I say to myself this, ready? Hey, Yoder, I'm just curious. What would the guy that owns that do about this right now? That's what I ask myself. And if you see what this is, you'd go, oh, whoa, okay. And then I say that, what would he do about this feeling that I'm having? And I go, you know what he'd do? He'd freaking pick up the phone and make the calls. That's what he would do. That's what that version would do. And so I center myself and go, you know what? Just make the calls. Quit being a big wimp and just go. So that's how I do it. But that's it, man. Rejection. It sucks. It feels icky inside. So what? So does not have any money in your pocket. Which worse?
But here's what's interesting. In trying to avoid rejection in life in general, not just doing this type of work, leads to rejection. Okay. So like if you're, you know what I mean? Yeah. So you're trying to
100%.
You get it. Yeah. So you're trying to avoid.
I get.
I'm going to pick up the phone.
Yeah. So
you're rejected.
Yes. But then you're rejected. You're rejected by the mortgage person who says you can't get a loan. You're rejected by your wife because you can't go to the nice restaurant. You got to go to Culver's. And so that's so accurate. It's so true. So what you end up doing is when you finally connect the dots between the behavior and the result is when the magic happens. But here's the deal. Most agents don't stick with it long enough because they're like, it doesn't work. No. You stopped, Napoleon Hill's story and thinking you're rich. You stopped 3 feet from gold. And that's the deal, is that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen tomorrow. But as soon as you connect it, you get your first one. You're like, I did it. There's evidence to support that it does work. Do I need to get better? Hell yeah. I sucked at it, but I got a listing. You know what I mean? So it's that. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's transferable too.
100%. That's how you and I are vibing perfectly on this. It is transferable. You can go from Michigan, you can go to Florida, Puerto Rico. You can even go up anywhere you want to on planet Earth. Whereas a brand or too much, all the stuff you built for local, just a local presence, that doesn't transfer. You don't have freedom with that. And your skill set too. Viktor Frankl talks about this in his, great book, which I'm sure you've read. What's in your head can't ever be taken away. And so most people, agents in particular, it's the fear thing, but also it's the sense that there's an easy path. They believe, and that's the other thing I think that's working against agents nowadays, especially again since the advent of Zillow and buying leads. All the whole generation of agents have always just been, beaten over the head. Branding, marketing, buying leads. Again, that stuff has a place, but if you really want to help people make money, learn how to be a proactive lead generator. And what's really fascinating too is there's less competition. Oh, what are you talking about, Tim? Everybody in my marketplace is calls expired. No, they don't. They mail them crap, or they go try to follow them on Facebook, or they do all these other things. Nobody's picking up the phone and actually having meaningful conversations. And if they are, they're not going to do it tomorrow because they had a bad experience today or what they perceive to be a bad experience. Yeah. And I wrote something down, I think for the sake of our listeners, I know you know this, Kevin, but there's psychological fear and then there's real fear. Real fear is the fear that you have when you basically are walking on the street and you almost, you're in New York City or you're walking on the strip of Las Vegas, wherever you're walking, and you almost fall off the curb and you almost get killed. That's real fear. Or you see something coming at you that's going to possibly cause you harm. That's real fear. Then what happens is your brain goes into fight or flight. You all of a sudden have superpowers, so you could jump out of the way of the oncoming cab that was about to flatten you, right? Now, here's what's fascinating. Real fear, your body essentially has a fear reaction, right? It triggers, chemical releases. All this stuff happens to cause you to put you in a position where you can avoid the problem. Same thing happens with psychological fear. So if you're about to pick up the phone, the same emotions and the same triggers happen. We haven't evolved enough as humans to basically differentiate between real fear and psychological fear. So if you are stopping at that fight or flight natural reaction that all of us have, I guarantee what Kevin just said, I'd feel it too. If Julie and I we were going to start prospecting again, expireds, all the rest of it, I would feel it too. But the thing is that you have to learn to accept the fact that that's normal. And the only way to push back that is just to do the work. Because what happens, Kevin said it, is you're always going to feel it, but it's a little bit less controlling every single time. If you've done it thousands of times, you still are always going to feel it. And you should be grateful that you do, because that keeps you frosty. It keeps you in a state of not being complacent, which is really wonderful, I think. But again, we have a little bit longer. The conversation.
So one last piece too. You do get to a point, at least I do. I might be crazy, but I get to a point where I actually kind of lean into it now, where I'm like, here it is, here it comes. You ask the question. I call it the turn in the script. And the turn is when you lay it out there on the line and you just shut up and wait. And sometimes I mess around with myself. I kind of throw my AirPods in the air, just kind of waiting for that to happen, because you've done it so many times. But you're okay with sitting there in silence, just waiting for it, and you kind of smile because you're like, here it comes. And like, I've been here before. This is very familiar to me. And so that's one piece. One other thing I got to lead if we're going to move on to something else. Our CRM system, I won't mention the name of it, but they waved the white flag and said, hey, we have failed as a CRM and we're sorry. We've been with them for 8 years, but we are going to shut down and we're going to go black at the end of September. And so we have a little bit of time here to regroup. 32,000 contacts in our CRM system. And for some reason, they turned the light off 2 days ago, 48 hours ago. And my team is like, hey, what's up? We don't have any contacts. I go, yeah, my entire database, my entire container that I put all those people in for 22 years, I can't get access to them. That actually is the business, by the way, is the people in the container. And they looked at me with fear in their eyes. They said, hey, just relax for a second. I said, yes, the worst case scenario is this goes away forever. That's the worst case scenario. Literally every contact I've ever made, every sale is in the container, it's gone, poof. That's the worst case. I said, if that happens, what do you think? What do you think is the good news? The good news is I literally know how to pick up the phone and start generating business today. And not many people know how to do that. They would freak the hell out because they don't have a lever they can pull. They can't literally step up the next day and start filling the container again, creating world-class experiences one client at a time. So I wanted to lead with that, just so you know, like, that's a big thing. Losing your entire database, that's a big monumental thing. But I didn't have any more fear in my voice than I do right now over that matter. It would suck, it'd be a pain, but I would just get right at it and fill it back up again, just so you know. I wanted to leave you with that, the guests listening to this, because that's how powerful it is to know that you have a skill set that you can take with you everywhere, crossing over borders to different states, as you mentioned, Tim.
Well, we've had coaching clients who have come to us, and like right now in this economy, and you know some of these people too, who are absolutely on their heels or maybe completely knocked out. It's easy to scale up, and I want to talk about teams. Dude, you got my brain firing off. I'm writing all this stuff down. I gotta write this down. All right, so it's easy to scale up, add staff, add this, add that, add the other thing. It's hard as hell to scale down. And that right now there's so many people, and this, Julie and I, this is through arguably our, we've been coaching now for probably 3 fairly significant setbacks in real estate. I think this one personally is worse than the housing crash, because the housing crash really didn't last from, peak to trough. It wasn't really that long, and there was a very clear path forward, but now there's so many variables, you have to learn so much. But the question you said, first of all, you said something with regards to the stages of learning. I think this too. Sometimes it's called the stages of mastery. So when you're getting started at anything new, it doesn't matter whether, like Julie and I are trying to learn pickleball, it just doesn't matter what it is. The first phase you're in is called unconscious incompetence. And that's where you don't know what you don't know. I'm going to guess that 99% of you watching or listening to us right now are in that phase of unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Then once you discover what you don't know, and unfortunately that usually happens because you get, knocked on your ass, you lose a listing, you lose some business that should have easily been yours. Something like that happens that causes you to seriously, basically, okay, what's going on? And now, unfortunately, what happens with a lot of people when they hit that phase is they quit. They'll quit. They'll say, I'm going to try something else. That's when they become susceptible to the idea that they can buy their business, passively generate. Oh, the reason you failed is because you don't have a big enough brand. Oh, you got to work on your logo. You got to work on your websites. All these people start trying to sell you stuff. And then you go to your office manager, your broker, and you ask for advice. Well, guess what? They don't know how to proactively lead generate either. So they're going to say, well, yeah, go buy some leads from Zillow or whatever. That's what this industry has become, but it's all becoming, unraveled right now. So the first phase is unconscious incompetence, where you don't know what you don't know. The second phase is conscious incompetence, where now you know a whole bunch of stuff you don't know, and hopefully you're experiencing that right now and being excited about it. The next phase after that is conscious competence. And then the phase after that is called unconscious competence. What Yoder was just describing was the fourth phase. And so the fourth phase is when you basically, whatever you're going to say, whatever comes out of your mouth next, you don't have to think. It's not taking effort. You're not actually having to wonder what's going to happen next, because you've had the conversation so many damn times. That's what he was describing. And it's funny he said what he just did, because I was about to ask him, how many times do you ever have a conversation with any kind of seller lead that you haven't had 1,000 times before? I'll ask you that question now. Like, does it ever happen? When is the last time they asked you something you didn't already hear 1,000 times before?
No, I mean, there's only going to be maybe four variations of the objection, just 4. And if we took this to a different level and think about the different variations that a doctor, for example, needs to be aware of, the different variations of diseases and ways that things break, and skin and organs and thousands, right? So we don't have this monumental task here, guys and gals. We just literally need to memorize 4 basic scripts. And I think that's where things break down. They think it's harder than what it is. Just master those things. Just master the thing. Be a turn pro. It's going from amateur to pro, making a decision that you're going to master this. And if I were to say, you didn't ask me this, but if I see the breakdown happening, people that want to get into prospecting, and I ask them, hey, how many hours a day are you doing it? If I hear 6 to 7 to 8, and then I ask them the results, and I find out that the results are dismal, the common denominator of that breakdown that I've seen, Tim, is in the lack of practice. They're not role playing. They're not getting this stuff out. And I know that you advocate for, just picking up the phone and calling expireds or FSBOs and using them as your practice. And that's great too. At the same time, over here on the side, have partners that you're actually practicing and getting that crap out of your mouth and your head and just getting it more fluid. That has been a magical thing. And that's what I see it being something that people just don't do a lot of. They don't practice enough.
And this is a good point. This is a really, really valuable point. And it's difficult to find competent people to practice with ultimately. That role play partners and all that, wonderful idea. But the challenge is you have to role play with somebody who's more skilled than you. Because if you're role playing with someone who has equal skills, you're a conscious incompetence, you're role playing with somebody else, you guys don't know what you're missing. Finding somebody who's better than you that wants to role play with you, that's the hard part, because you're not bringing them up. And so anybody who's in the game like you are, they're going to only want to associate, or a vast majority of their time, with people that are better than them, because they want to get better, because you have to get better. So that's the challenge ultimately with a lot of the role play stuff that I've seen. But if you can find good people, accountability partners, that's great.
You got to go up, but at the same time, I've had a guy that's right behind this wall, and he's one of the best agents I know. But up as I was training him up, he would say, Yoder, I want to just teach me how to say what you say. And I say, I can't do that. Well, what do you mean? I said, because I've developed this language of sales through the process of getting my face kicked in over and over again by sellers, saying this and then running it through the filter. Okay, they said this. Is it if this, then that algorithm that you're running on a daily basis, and your brain is literally learning new algorithms based on what they're saying. So in the moment, in the doing is when you're actually learning. So role play doesn't quite get you there, but that simulation is something if you do on a regular basis, like once a day, but then get on the phones and actually bring it out into the real world with sellers with real emotions and people with real stuff going on. Because then if you do it every day, you'll learn. You'll just learn it on your own, if you care and you're actually paying attention and making notes and improving.
Well, you realize what you just described was basically, the unconscious competence, right? Because what Kevin, I happen to know for a fact that you can train other people to do it because I know people you've helped before. So, because the phase that's after that is essentially where you have the ability to teach. And so this is where a lot of people, when they go to advice from other people, maybe you do find a really competent Yoder in your marketplace. Maybe they're just an absolute rock star stud like this guy is. It doesn't mean they know how to teach you how to do it, because what's happened is they've become unconscious. It's like if you were to ask me how to coach somebody at a high level, I know how to do it because I've done it for so long. And Julie and I've also coached other people how to become coaches. But if you had asked me how to do that when Julie and I were really getting started in coaching a long time ago, no clue how to do it. I was still learning how to do it, but learning how to do it and doing it consistently and then showing other people how to do it, becoming really good at it, being a teacher of something really hard is 1,000 times harder than learning how to do it yourself, for sure. Because you have to reach into someone's head and help them move around the junk in their attic, and help them, well, this is this is this. And sometimes it's just dumb little things that you hear in their voices. Like, I mean, the little things that people do, the upswings at the end, all these little things. And if you can help people root those things out and identify what those issues are. Well, Kevin, that's the reason so many agents are joining with you at eXp Realty. They're seeking out somebody who's actually been there, done that. We're in this era where there's so many real estate coaches and trainers that are essentially stolen valor. They've never actually done it before. There's people out there that are coaches and trainers who have never freaking had real estate licenses before. And so if you're somebody who's actually wanting to become really great at something, you got to align with somebody like this guy. And so, I strongly encourage all of you who are looking for an unbelievably powerful eXp Realty sponsor, connect with Kevin. And his phone number is right there. I'm going to give it to you again in case you're listening to us and you're not on video. It's 616-366-2591. You absolutely want to connect with him because for the people that he sponsors, you not only get everything that Julie and I offer, but you also get Yoder as basically your mentor. And if I were getting back into real estate, if I had a guy like this, that was basically, on my side, we would have gone a lot faster, and we sold over 100 houses our first year in the business. So we could have sold 200. Wow. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
thank you.
Let's shift. You also mentioned something about long-term lead follow-up. And this is something also I think I'd really like your opinion on. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this before. So I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm just going to ask you your experience. Like not what you've heard other people say and what you've read, but what's your experience with long-term lead follow-up in general? Sticking people in a
my
CRM
experience
on them. Yeah, your own experience.
Well, hold on. So like I want to make sure that I'm not confusing. When you said that to me, I had one thing that came to mind, and then you said something at the very end there, which was sticking in a CRM system and dripping on. That's not what I think of when I think of long-term lead nurturing. I think you said I think of making sure that I'm following up with them and based on the promise I made to you, Tim. Hey, Tim, today is August 23rd, 2024. You mentioned to me that you're not going to make a move, not at all, until probably fall of 25. Fair? Okay, great. Tell you what, I promise you, I'll follow up with you by, let's say, June of next year. And that way I can see if anything has changed for you. And just mark your calendar because I promise you I will call you then. So I just follow through with my promises. And I put in the CRM because my brain is an inadequate container. So it reminds me to do that. So that's what I think of. And if they're not ready, hey, Kev, we're not ready yet. Okay, super duper. What's changed? Okay, next year. Great. So I follow up, and then 10 years. I sold 2 this year that were 10-year nurtures. So when I think of long-term, I think of this. Like, I don't think of the email hits, but that's just kind of keep it in front of them. But you got to pick up the phone, you got to text, call, email, all of it to keep them front and center. So that's what it comes to mind. 10 years, that's a long time. That many people are not willing to do a 10-year nurture, dude. It's just not normal. I'm abnormal, maybe, but I'm in it. I love that. Well, I love it when people tell me, hey, you've been with me for a decade. That's a long, I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago. And yet my sign's in their yard, it's kind of cool.
The arms race that a lot of people have been led to believe in our industry has been basically you build a massive CRM and you drip on them, which sounds disgusting, but I mean, I'm trying to be funny, but you get the idea. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, you drip on them.
I get you. Yeah.
And it's what's fascinating is the jury has been in on that for ages, and every single research project that's ever been done on long-term lead follow-up that's passive, like not what you're doing. You're being proactive with your long-term lead follow-up. Passive long-term lead follow-up, which the CRMs are basically telling agents to do, they don't work. The drip campaigns, I can log in and I can see how many times they opened up my email or watched my video, all the rest of it. And guys, this goes for all kinds of leads. And so I'm going to give Kevin a leading question. How many define what a lead is? Like, what the hell is a lead? Everyone's is like people that are in long-term drip campaigns. Would you consider those leads? What's a lead?
A lead is somebody that you've had a conversation with that has the capacity to make a move now, in the near future or the far future. And they've actually expressed that to you. That's what I would consider to be a lead. They have the capacity to make a move. They've expressed that interest. It may not be today, but it's going to be at some point. And they're an adult. There's someone over 18 and they're legally able to do so. That's what I consider to be a lead.
Right. So a decision-making adult. So you're not like, if you get a lead from some passive source and you stick them in a drip campaign, do you consider that a lead? You don't do that, but I mean, you know where I'm going with that.
No.
But again,
not really. It just muddies the waters. It's confusing. You think it's a lead. It's not. And you're kind of like, I mean, essentially, I think you're lying to yourself because you think you have a lead and you don't have a lead. Just be honest. Did you have a conversation with them? Did they express an interest in selling or buying at some point now in the near future or the far off future? And have they agreed to have a conversation with you at some point? Maybe not today, but they're open-minded to you being their realtor of choice. Yes or no? Do you have somebody you know, like, and trust in your life? No, we don't. Can I be your guy? Sure. All right, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to call you every once in a while. I'm going to get your voicemail. I'm going to leave you a nice voicemail. You don't have to answer. It's okay. It's all good. I'm your guy. That's how it goes. Wash, rinse, repeat over and over again. 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's
not hard. It's not hard, right? It's just, come on. I can teach my 14-year-old how to do that.
Well, I mean, but you're saying, then again, I'm trying to appeal. I'm trying to really help everyone listening and watching know that they can be successful. But the recurring theme of everything Yoder and I are talking about is to be proactive. You have to pick up the phone. So I don't know how he's going to answer this. So I'm going to ask him a question. How many actual, let's call them AAA leads do you have right now? How many leads are you chasing that aren't active listings or not basically in contract buyers?
How many real, legit I am talking to?
Let's even make it even more simple. Where are your leads right now? The people that you're trying to make into customers, where's that information right now? Is it in a CRM or a piece of paper?
No, I have the dialer. So I use Vulcan. So many of them are in there and I follow up with them on a consistent. So I probably have, I would say right now, anywhere between 15 and 20 that I am actively pursuing from that. Now, those are real leads, though. Those are legitimately signs in the ground, right? Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking you. So these are people you're going to be landing the plane with, or you have a 90% chance of landing the plane with. Yeah. And you're just essentially just trying to reel them in. Maybe they have some, it's happening next month and the month after that. But these are really good. Yeah. So here, and you've experienced this too. I have all the agents that Julie and I and all of our coaches have ever coached that sell the most homes have the fewest number of leads. And that ball goes to the brain when I say that, because agents are being trained to have a crap ton of leads, but you don't want a crap ton of leads because what you're collecting aren't leads. They're just names on pieces of paper or in your CRM. They're ones and zeros. A lead is someone, like Yoder's just said, who he's pre-qualified. He knows what their motivation is. He probably knows what their dog's name is. He knows what their time frame is. He knows what the things that are, hindrances to them putting the house for sale today versus, 6 months from now. Maybe not even 6 months. I'm going to guess this guy doesn't waste a lot of time with 6 monthers. He's probably just focusing on the 30 and 60-day leads. That's what a real lead is. And if you don't have, you may, dear listener or viewer, have leads like that. but they're hiding in your CRM. They're hiding, you're not calling them. You have to pick up the phone and have pre-qualifying conversations with them. And here's the beauty of all of it. In a generation where all agents are taught to do something or do passive lead generation, let alone passive lead follow-up, when you're the one picking up the phone and having a charming conversation like he did, which made me laugh, you're going to remember Kevin Yoder. You're going to do business with Kevin Yoder. So why aren't you doing that? Because you don't know how to say it? Okay. Because you're worried about rejection? Well, worrying about rejection and trying to avoid rejection, Kevin and I already hopefully explained to you, creates ultimate rejection. So what's your reason? I mean, hopefully we're helping to clear the air. So what are you thinking? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'm thinking of what you're explaining is going deep rather than going wide. So when you said how many leads you had, I could have fallen into the trap of trying to impress you or impress people here with saying I have thousands of leads. So, and then everyone will be like, oh my God, but no, I don't. I mean, I don't have thousands of leads that are real, ready, able, willing folks ready to make a move. It's somewhere around that 15 to 20 mark, and it ebbs and flows based on the number of folks that have committed to putting that sign in the ground and or have a failed sale. So that's my primary lead source. I have other things I'm doing, but that's not my primary, So that's what I'm thinking. It's going deep rather than wide, because like you said, you can't get to know thousands of people. You're not going to do that. You're going to cherry pick what you think are the ones that are the cream of the crop. But just going deep rather than wide.
But it's there when you accept that and you realize that it's about meaningful conversations, and some people, I say the word script. So, over the years, Julie and I learned to never say script. You say conversation outline. And you also, Kevin, you don't never say prospecting. Prospecting makes agents run and hide. You say proactive lead generation. You got to kind of nerf things up, a little bit, take the edges off.
Yeah.
But then they listen, right? So
I just say script. Like I let people have a hard time with that word. Like literally, like 2011, when I decided to launch into expireds, I found a Mike Ferry script. It's a script, guys, and I pinned it on the side of my monitor. I just read it. I didn't know what I was doing, and I watched a video on YouTube, and I memorized kind of his mannerisms and how he said things, and it was all nice. And that's what I did for 5 years straight. I just did that. I just read the thing on the thing. I got better at reading the script. And it's just a time you didn't know I was actually reading a script. It's just an outline. It's just there,
That's all it is. It's a conversation outline. And so, the key with scripts is basically you do need to memorize them at first. You can have the script in front of you. Like most actors have things that I was listening to an interview with Russell Crowe yesterday. He never memorized any of his scripts. He always had somebody, telling him his lines. It doesn't matter. Have the script in front of you. But the first thing you want to do is you want to memorize it. Again, if you want to have a cheater script in front of you, that's fine. Then you want to internalize it. That's what Kevin was just talking about. And then you personalize it. So when you get a script in front of you that works in all price ranges and all market conditions and all the script has been proven to work, do not personalize it, because you are going to screw it up, because you are in that stage of conscious incompetence and you don't know the changes you're making, the downstream cost of doing that. You have to ask script is nothing other than questions. Ask the questions in the order in which they were written, and over time, not too much time, you will then discover why the questions are written in the way that they are. Because the people writing the scripts, for the most part, know what the seller is going to say and think before before oftentimes they say or think it. And the question is designed to basically help you get through, pre-qualify them, and set the appointment. It's all it is basically you're helping solve a problem. All sales is, at the end of the day, it's not coercion. You cannot sell a house to a buyer that does not want to buy the house. There's not a single, maybe an investor, but homeowners or would-be homeowners, whatever, they like it or they don't. I don't care what you're going to say. If they don't like it, they're not going to buy it. And same goes on the listing side of things. So sales, in essence, what it really is helping somebody make a decision that they've already told you that they want to make. That's all it is. And if you have good sales skills and you have charming like Yoder is, they're going to want to make it with you. That's just the whole thing. And people say it's a relationship business. It is, but it has to start with skills. I know Kevin.
Tim, two things on that real quick. Just one is that what you said is absolutely true, and I don't hear that brought up very often. It's interesting when you hear people say, "I'm not good with scripts." Stop saying that, and also don't deviate from the reason why we can't deviate from the script when you're in that incompetent stage is because you will launch into what you believe is a worthy conversation. You'll get into conversational mode. which if you ever have you ever followed straight line persuasion? There's a reason why that works. You're literally walking the line. You get off for a minute, have a little conversation about their Corvette, and get back on the line. I know where the line is at all times, but if you get off the line, off the script, you mess up because you start talking about where they went to high school, and you spend all this time messing around when you got to get to the end, which is the question. The other thing that comes to mind is what I think Tim was saying is that he is going to, for all of his coaching clients, he's going to send them a little AirBot, a little miniature hidden mic thing or thing to put in their ear, and he's going to personally coach you through every single call.
I've done that before
when you're on the phone.
Can I tell a true story? I'm gonna tell a true story,
Yeah.
okay? I'm even gonna use real names, okay? I had a coaching client in LA who had to give an over-the-phone presentation to Charlie Sheen, a listing presentation, okay? And most of this agent is a fantastic agent, but most of his business was centers of influence and past clients. So this lead came from the business manager of Charlie Sheen. So he asked me, he was like, I was giving a little pep talk prior to the listing presentation, but I could tell he was very nervous. So call Charlie, put it on speakerphone. I'm going to talk in your other ear, and we're going to work through this together. I listened to what he was saying. He wasn't saying much. It was his business manager mostly. I heard what they were saying. I told him what to say. He got the damn listing. Now, all I was doing was listening, and because he was nervous because he hadn't reached that stage of unconscious, of conscious competence, right? Yeah. He was somewhere in between, but that's basically what we're talking about. Now, am I going to do that for all of our coaching clients? Maybe. It's kind of fun, to be honest with you. This is the one aspect what we're talking about now. What I missed about real estate is the lead generation and the listing appointments. I loved the listing appointments. They're fantastic. Yeah. Especially when you took the listing, So right. I'm going to talk about teams. You said you've gone small team, big team, and you are where you are now. Talk a little bit about teams and how you've morphed between all this.
Yeah. In total transparency, I had this conversation just 2 days ago. I was talking with my team is the following. I have my lead agent. This is right now. I'll probably add a couple more agents, but right now it's me and Donald, and this is a yin and yang. And I have a part-time executive assistant, and I have a video editor, which is a VA, and I have a transaction coordinator, which is outsourced, and a listing manager, which is outsourced. So I have kind of outsourced to these very roles. They can narrow in on that. But in the beginning, when I first launched the team, I was forging a team because I felt like that's what cool kids do. Like I didn't really why was I building a team? Because it was what I was told to do. It's what the company I was with at the time, all the mega teams were doing the team thing. And that's why I did it. I didn't do it because I really loved it. In fact, I found myself surrounded by a bunch of B players, which was miserable for me because I didn't want to hang out with B players. I wanted to hang out with A players. That's not what I was doing. I didn't have the wherewithal, the leadership. I didn't have the vision to bring on great people around me to help me do this thing. So big and small, ultimately in the last, I would say 24 months, very intentionally kept the team at a small size so I can get back in production to figure out what it's going to take in this new market condition to actually be as sharp as I possibly can to figure out how to do this thing, and then teach others how to do it as well. Like you mentioned, people that would want to come into the organization. So I'm at the helm, man. I'm fully on in production, and we have a streamlined process, meaning I'm not heavy on admin. There was a time when I had just a few years ago, even 10, when I first met you, my operational expenses were exceedingly high. I had seven administrative people on my payroll. And now I have a part-time person that's literally, when I press the ADP payroll button, they're the only person on payroll next to me and my wife. So things have changed in that way. And, we'll end up this year, we'll round out around, 80 units. We'll push up against probably, 700, 800,000. That's not bad. It's extremely profitable. It's extremely lean. And I was sucking wind, man. You talked to me in 2020. I think I had 5% profitability.
That's when.
What's it all for?
That's when you and I originally met. Was basically that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's it all for though? Like I'm not doing all this to make 5% profit. I'll get in the restaurant business if I want shitty profits, right? I mean, it didn't make sense,
Well,
so, go ahead.
But this goes back to what you and I were saying. Honestly, it's so nice to talk to somebody who's been in the business for more than 5 seconds, because the team things, when Julie and I got into the business, the team thing actually made profit on the buyer side of the transaction too. and in the 90s, right? So you could form a team. Julie and I had 7 buyer's agents, and we were making really good profit off of them. Because guess what? They were less, I hate using this word because it triggers people, but just hear me out, dear listener. The buyer agents now are so entitled. They're expecting leads to be poured on. They're expecting services. They're expecting all these other things. Because over the last 20 years, what's happened is these teams have become team brokerages and all these hybrid things. And then agents or these team leaders, the Yoders out there, were spending all of what would have been their profit just to try to basically, keep the teams alive and try to bring the teams to them and all the rest of it, right? Try to bring more buyer agents to them, the whole thing. And so what's happened now, and I've not seen an exception to what I'm about to say in probably the last 3 or 4 years. When I look at a big team, and we have a lot of big teams that are joining with us at eXp Realty, talk to Yoder. He's been there, done that. I have not seen, and probably, I'm going to say the last 3 years for sure, I have not seen a single team that makes any profit off their buyer side transactions. And matter of fact, most of them are subsidizing the buyer side with their listing side, what would have been their profit. In other words, you will see typically there's the listing side of the business and the buyer side of the business. The buyer side of the business, the agents want more splits. The commissions are not what they used to be. They're spending too much money on basically generating, buying leads from Zillow or whatever. There's Zillow Flex agents. They're spending all this money on referral fees. Maybe they're doing reload leads where the referral fees are 50%. So when you actually do the waterfall, there's no money being made on a buyer side transaction for most team leaders. And most of them are losing a fairly substantial amount of money. And the only way they keep that wheel turning is they take what would have been the only profit they're making from their, from this business and from the listing side and subsidizing the buyer side. That's how bad it's gotten. And why do people still do it? Because they believe, and now what has become the elegant lie, that you have to have a team to be successful in real estate. According to who? Yoder's making $800,000 this year in just real estate commissions. And I guarantee you, without asking him, before taxes, he's probably making $700,000 or thereabouts in profit. Okay? That's really freaking good money in Michigan, but it's really good money everywhere. Adjust accordingly. If you were to take Kevin selling 80 houses a year, and I were to stick him in Dade County or LA, where the average commission was, I mean, imagine this, Kevin, where the average sale price was 2 or 3 million, and his skills at going out and prospect, and he still had the mindset of listing and selling, 80 houses a year. You think how much money he would make. This all goes to basically environment, all the rest of it. But my point is, he said it earlier, these skill sets, they could be transferred. And I know he's thinking about that too, as his kids leave the nest, maybe they don't want to stay in Michigan. They don't have to. But yes, this team conversation, it's not something that's very trendy to have because so many people have invested so much of their business, their energy on developing these teams. And what you guys got to understand is there's nothing wrong with you as a business owner or an entrepreneur because you have an unprofitable team. You're just following an unprofitable business. And this is what I wrote down, Kevin. So you were an A player when I met you, no doubt. Tier 1, Navy SEAL, badass, best of the best. That's what you are still to this day. But you are chasing essentially a C-level opportunity, right? And so when you take someone has huge potential and they spend all their efforts trying to chase something that will never pay them dividends for what they're trying to create, that's a mismatch. And then Kevin had to realize he accepted that. And now he's basically he just got back from a long trip in Europe and Italy. He and I were just talking about that. I mean, how extraordinary is that? So give yourself permission, dear listener or viewer, to hit hard reset and reposition yourself with this new market. You haven't failed if you're getting rid of your team. You're actually adapting to what this new market has to offer. And that's the reason that most agents still have these unprofitable teams is because they're worried about the optics of them having to downsize the team. Don't feel like that because what you're trying to avoid is the perception of failure. But by avoiding the perception of failure, you're actually inviting in failure because you can't burn the candle at both ends forever.
Yeah. What you just said right there, if I'm being honest, let me retract that statement. I hate when people say, if I'm being honest. Let me just share the truth with you, is that I held on to the team longer than I should have because of the perception that I would feel like I would be failing as a realtor, as a someone who's been doing this for a long time. I should have a team. It's like an identity thing almost. It's BS. It doesn't come to find out I have a lot more time in my day now because I don't have to manage, so many people and I can just get right at it and coach people that want to do this thing at the highest level, that's where I can get real, I can get behind that. Right. But I don't have to, it's just easier, man. It's more profitable. It's more fun. You're engaged with your clients. You're back in the game. Yeah.
Well, you're in control, right? I mean, you're not running an adult daycare, basically. So what you're describing is freedom. That's what you're feeling. You're feeling a sense of freedom, and you're creating financial freedom for you and your family. And when you really drill down on why somebody got into real estate, it wasn't for the awards and the plaques. I suppose some people, if you grew up on a steady stream of Bravo TV and selling $1 million this, $1 million that, maybe that's what you were attracted to. But eventually you're going to come to the realization, if you have to choose between being famous and being rich, and rich is merely where your money works for you, and you no longer have to work for your money. You have money coming in passively every single day that you don't have to worry about it anymore. So dear listener or viewer, and Kevin, I'm going to ask you this, and please do be as transparent as you feel comfortable being, okay? So I'm talking to the Yoder now in his 20s, right? And I ask you, if you want to be famous or rich, which are you going to choose?
Yeah, back then I would have probably chose a famous. But the interesting thing about that is it's really interesting. You just said what you just did. I was leaving a listing appointment before this call. You said, hey, let's hop on here. And I was like 1 minute late because I was coming in hot, and I was pulling on the driveway, and the lady that I was listing her home, she was having a garage sale. And the lady in the garage sale goes, hey, I know that guy. That's Kevin Yoder. And then she's like, oh, and I go, hey, listen to her, because she's, so there was a little banter there. So there was a little bit of that like local famous celebrity thing going on, but I don't care about that. Like it doesn't do anything for me. I think it's a little bit funny, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be a silent multi-millionaire than I would be somebody that, on the billboard and making sure that everyone knew that I was that way. If that's answering your question.
Well,
I really don't care about that.
Some of the people in our EXP Realty group, a lot of them were coaching clients or still are. And we have some that are literally making millions of dollars in net profit every year. And they have one or two assistants and you've never heard them. I've got one person, who this guy is. His first name's Chuck. He won't do this. He won't. I've tried every single, he won't do it. He goes, nope. He goes, I don't want the attention. I don't want to talk about myself. I just want to listen. I love it.
Yeah, I get that. I completely appreciate that. That's exactly right. So it's an interesting question. I think, I don't know that I've had that many opportunities to really dissect that one, rich or famous. I think if you're getting a real estate, do people get in it because they want to be famous? Maybe. But I think we want freedom.
It's a developmental thing. I mean, if you ask, so the next question I was going to ask, if I asked the same question to you when you were 35, rich or famous, then your answer starts to change. Do you notice that? And then I asked the same question. Okay, the Yoder who's 45. Okay, you look like you're not 50, are you? I don't think you are.
I actually.
Are you really? You look great. You're holding up good. Okay,
thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah.
What happens is, as you ask that question, you're a coach too. So ask people that question. And what they'll self-discover is basically their priorities in life change the older that they get and the less they give a hoot about being famous. But when you look at all the onslaught of marketing, advertising, branding, all this stuff, what it's trying to do is appeal to people's, I think they're almost their ego in essence. I mean, to use a Freudian term, right? It's trying to appeal to their desire to be famous, because when we're younger, we're trying to prove our value to our tribe. We're trying to prove that we can be providers and all the other things. We have all these things that we have to be validated. At least that's the sense of it by other people. But as we get older, we realize that's all bullshit. And we also then realize what we want more than anything is we want to be free, right? We want more life. We want more time. We want more time with people that we love. Yeah. So, I mean,
100%. 100%.
We only have like 15 minutes left, but so many things I want to talk to you about that I wrote down. Why did you choose? You were with Remax. You were an independent broker.
No, I was KW, independent, EXP. There's the path. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So why did you choose to go? How does this conversation lead you to EXP? Why was EXP such a good fit?
So
let me set this up. Okay. Because when we originally started speaking, it was because you were trying to figure out what to do with your team. And your team was as good as any team I'd ever, coached people to run before. And the more I got to know you, the more I realized what the quest you were on was the freedom thing. And you obviously already knew that too. You just didn't know quite how to get there. And you were believing these stories about build a team and the profit will come. That never happens. But then you were already on the path to want to go to EXP. We never talked about it initially, but then you came around to it. Can you share with the listeners? Because Kevin, here's the thing. There's somebody out there listening right now that's a Kevin Yoder person, man, woman, doesn't matter, who you are resonating with, they are exactly in the position that you are in. And I want them to know that they can connect with you about you helping them join EXP and be part of our overall group. And so like, why is it that EXP was a good fit for you?
Yeah, timing was important. You and I coming together was a timing piece. I mean, I had heard about EXP from this guy and that guy. So friends of mine all over the country were joining EXP. And every time they did, they'd reach out and say, but I had just left KW and went independent. So there was some pride there. I mean, my marketing was wrapped around it. I had gotten rid of the KW and had just the Yoder real estate. So there was a lot of that. So after a few years, though, that starts to wear off. And it was right during the pandemic, 2020. And I own rental real estate. And so I understand like passivity is really important. That idea of having multiple streams is baked into my DNA, because the only real true way that you can actually truly be free is to have income that's working when you're not. So that was appealing to me. I think the broader reason, like the original reason, was this sense of environment, and knowing that as an independent brokerage, kind of all alone on an island, I had kind of cut ties. When you do that, you kind of lose your larger network, and being around people that are doing big things, access to training, access to healthcare for agents, access to the best training actually in the world, and then access to stock and revenue share. It was a package thing. And it wasn't just one. Someone just didn't walk up to me one day and hit me in the head and I was with EXP. It was a series of events that happened and that fell into perfect timing. But training, the idea of revenue share, to know that if I can help an agent succeed in real estate, and oh, by the way, by virtue of that, I get to build an amazing organization. That was a big part of it. And I think that's I mean, freedom, man. That's just it. That's it.
That is it. I mean, the revenue share and all the things you just talked about, and having your work ethic. If you listen, listeners, here's the bottom line. If you're looking for somebody who's obviously going to be very proactive in your success, not just selling real estate, but also as an EXP Realty sponsor, this guy, or wherever he is on your screen, he's over here for me. Just message him directly, text him directly. Don't call him. I'm going to do that. I'll throw that out because you don't want to have to be doing it when you're taking listings. But text him at 616-366-2591. Just text him. He calls himself Yoder. I guess that's his thing. I call him Kevin, but it's all good. So text Yoder and have the conversation with them about where you are in your real estate career, where you want to be. If you then want to have me jump on a Zoom or a call with you, and Kevin and I will, have a conversation with you. And I'll say for sure that Kevin is attracting to him a lot of teams and brokerages because he can speak right to them from his very, his experience he's had in the very recent past. So a lot of agents right now are hoping that the clouds are going to clear, things are going to be the way that they were in the past. They're not. But here's an absolute 100% certainty that if the longer you wait for things to go back to the way they were, the higher probability you are to needlessly suffer. You're going to drag out your inevitable path back to profitability and back to success. So wherever you are, whether you're mentally, emotionally, and financially struggling, the next natural step for you is to say, okay, I'm going to put an end to it. And I know I need to make some radical changes. Maybe it's not so radical. Maybe you're a new agent. You're just looking to choose a sponsor at EXP. There you go, Kevin Yoder. Or maybe you are that brokerage or your team and you're looking to go to the next level. At least have the conversation so you can understand why EXP Realty is without a doubt. I mean, when Julie and I started with EXP 5 years ago, I think there were some people that when I would talk with them, it might actually make sense for them not to join EXP. None of that exists anymore. Doesn't matter where you are. Does not matter where your price point is. Doesn't matter how big your brokerage is. We're talking with brokers that have hundreds of agents. We're talking with brokerages that have dozens of agents. It doesn't matter. Teams with 5 people, teams with 50 people. It doesn't matter. At least have the math in front of you and understand that by moving over to EXP or downsizing your team and becoming profitable, you're not failing. What you're doing is you're just evolving to the next natural step in your real estate business. And that's how you've got to see it. And here's the beauty of all of this. You're going to become profitable again. You're going to be back in alignment with probably the reason you got into real estate in the first place, which was to be financially free, to be rich, where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money. Don't procrastinate. Text Kevin directly. Again, his phone number is 616-366-2591. So Kevin, in the 6 minutes we have left, do you want to wrap up and have anything else to say to these guys?
Woo, there's a lot there. We covered a lot, Tim. And I just think that when I'm thinking about these new agents getting into real estate, if they could just get over some things, or if they're struggling in real estate, just look at this slightly differently. I would encourage you to start looking at this slightly differently. And the things that we shared here, you can't get around it. Absolutely 100% true. These are the truths. We're all looking for how to help more people, serve more people, have more closings, and fund our perfect life and have freedom. That's what we got into this for. So why aren't we willing to do whatever it takes, so long as it's legal, ethical, moral, and aligns with what you're up to here on your journey here on planet Earth? Then I think our families deserve it. And I'll take it to the next level though too, is if I believe that, or if you believe, I want you to just pick up on this belief here. If you believe that you are worthy of that, and you believe you actually can serve somebody, you can actually get their home sold, you believe that, like, you're like, I can help you, then, and you know you can, or you know that you have access to people that can help you do that, then it actually becomes your duty and responsibility. Like when I call on a for sale by owner and I see their shitty pictures, and I see they're grainy and their description's bad and their price is off by like 9 grand, 10 grand, I could just do a little tweak up or down. I have a duty and obligation responsibility that levels up, that raises the stakes here for me. I won't quit until such time that I have exhausted all opportunities to help that person. So step into that a little bit, realize that it's become a duty now, not just to something I'm going to do for funsies or for money. That's what I would like to leave you with.
No, brother,
Just raise it, make it more important than what you've made it before. Your family deserves it. The client that you didn't call today, get this, that you didn't call because you were afraid, they hired a crappy agent. Way to go. Way to let your ego get in the way. Way to let your fear get in the way. If you're really a servant person, and you know you are, you care, you're really good at it, then you need to step up and do the thing so that someone else doesn't end up hiring. They don't end up hiring that agent that's not going to do that thing that you're going to do. That's what I'd like to leave you with. Make it more important.
The highest and truest purpose of all of this, all of us on this planet, the thing that makes us the most happy, most fulfilled, feeling like we have the most meaning, is being of service to other people. And that's it. And that's what I love about real estate, and frankly, doing podcasts and things like this, because I know there's a direct correlation between what you and I just said and helping somebody. And when you're picking up the phone and you're calling that expired, that for sale by owner, even if they're a little grumpy at the beginning, so thank you for your time today.
Yes, 100%.
God bless everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Have
having
a great
me on,
day.
Tim.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.